The auction hall smelled like smoke and fear. Hundreds of aliens stood in cages, their faces dull and lifeless. Metal chains clinked as buyers walked by, checking the goods like objects. It was another day in the slave markets of Row 9, a mining planet far from any law or mercy. Inside one of the smaller cages sat a young alien girl, thin, pale, and trembling. Her name was Leary. She had silver eyes and blue skin, once beautiful but now covered in dust and bruises. For months, she had been traded from one cruel owner to another, each one worse than the last. When the auctioneer shouted her number, Leary didn't even lift her head. She already knew what came next: pain, hunger, or punishment. She had stopped hoping long ago. Then the crowd parted and a tall human man walked forward. He didn't look like the others, no armor, no cruel smile. His hair was gray, his coat long and old. His eyes were tired but calm. He was around 50, maybe older. His name was Marcus Hale. The auctioneer laughed. "A human buying from Row 9? You sure about that, old man? She's not cheap." Marcus didn't answer. He just handed over a credit chip. The amount made the crowd whisper. No one paid that much for a half-starved alien girl. The auctioneer quickly unlocked Leary's cage, pushing her out roughly. Leary fell to the ground, chains still around her wrists. She looked up slowly, afraid to meet her new master's eyes. Marcus looked down at her, silent. Then he spoke in a calm, almost soft voice. "Can you walk?" She froze. No one had ever asked her that before. When she didn't answer, he sighed and reached out a hand. Leary flinched, expecting a strike, but instead he helped her to her feet. Her body shook from weakness, and for a second she leaned against him before pulling away, ashamed. As they left the hall, whispers followed them. "Crazy human. She won't last a week. Probably bought her for experiments." Leary heard every word. In her mind, she was sure of one thing: humans were monsters. She had seen soldiers burn her village years ago. She had lost her family, her home, everything. Now being bought by one of them felt like the final curse. Outside, the air was thick with dust and smoke. Marcus led her toward an old transport shuttle parked nearby. The ship looked broken, patched together from scrap metal. Leary hesitated before entering. "Get in," Marcus said. "You're safe now." "Safe?" She almost laughed. Safe from what? He was just another owner. Maybe he wanted to test on her or sell her organs. Every story she'd heard about humans ended in blood. When the ship took off, she sat in the corner, hugging her knees. Marcus sat across, typing on a hollow screen. For a long time, silence filled the air. Then he spoke again. "You need food and medical care. We'll reach the outpost in an hour." Leary's heart pounded. She didn't understand. Why was he being kind? Kindness didn't exist in her world. It was always a trick before pain. Finally, she whispered, "Why, you buy me?" Marcus looked up, his eyes unreadable. "Because no one else should own another being." Leary blinked. The words made no sense. He continued, "I worked for the Galactic Navy once. I saw too many people broken by greed. I can't fix the galaxy, but I can save one." She didn't know if he was lying. But something in his voice felt real, heavy, tired but honest. Then suddenly alarms blared. The shuttle shook violently. Red lights flashed. Marcus jumped to the controls. "Damn it, pirates!" The ship spun as laser fire hit the side. Leary screamed, gripping the seat. Marcus shouted commands to the computer, trying to steer away. "Hold on." For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of dying. But when she looked at the human man fighting to protect her, something inside her changed, a spark she thought was long gone. Hope. The shuttle shook like a tin can in a storm. Red warning lights flashed across the small cabin, painting the walls in sharp crimson. Leary's heart raced. She pressed herself against the cold metal wall, her chains clinking with every tremor. "Pirates," Marcus muttered, gripping the controls. His calm face was now tense, focused. Through the cracked front screen, Leary could see dark shapes moving fast. 3 small ships closing in from behind, their weapons glowing bright red. "They're signaling us," Marcus said. "They want me to surrender." He hit a few buttons. The engines roared louder, but smoke began to rise from the side panels. Leary didn't understand the words, but she understood fear. She could feel the ship dying beneath them. "Hold tight," Marcus shouted. The ship turned sharply, almost throwing her off balance. She fell, hitting the floor hard. Pain shot up her arm. Marcus didn't look back. His eyes were locked on the radar. A blast of energy tore through the rear thrusters, shaking the ship again. Systems failing. Shields at 40%, the computer said in a cold voice. Leary looked at Marcus, trembling. We will die? He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled a lever beside him. The walls began to shift and a hidden metal door opened near the floor. Inside was a narrow escape pod. Get in, Marcus ordered. Leary shook her head. No, you come too. He gave a short, tired smile. It's a one-seat pod. You go. Tears welled in her eyes. But why? You don't even know me. I don't have to, he said. You deserve a chance. Leary stared at him, shocked. Nobody had ever said something like that to her. She didn't move, so Marcus grabbed her shoulders and gently pushed her toward the pod. Listen to me. When you land, there's a tracker beacon inside. Someone will find you. Don't trust the pirates. Don't tell anyone about me. Just live. Marcus. She tried to speak, but a loud explosion cut her off. The ship jolted again. Fire burst from the side panels. The whole cabin filled with smoke. He shoved her into the pod, hit the release button, and the small capsule shot away from the main ship. The pressure slammed her back into the seat. Through the tiny window, she saw the shuttle shrink behind her. And then in a flash of orange light, it exploded. Marcus! She screamed, her voice echoing in the small pod. Silence. Only the hum of the pod's engine remained. Her vision blurred with tears. For the first time in years, she had felt kindness. And now it was gone. Hours passed. The pod drifted through the empty black sky, stars stretching endlessly around her. Leary sat curled up, silent. She hated herself for feeling sad. He was human, her enemy. But her heart didn't listen. She remembered the way he had looked at her. Not with hate, not with disgust, but with something strange. Something like care. Suddenly, the pod shook again. She gasped and looked outside. A huge ship was pulling her in with a blue tractor beam. Her heart froze. The pirates had found her. The pod landed roughly inside a hangar. The door opened and blinding light poured in. Dark figures surrounded her, armed, rough, laughing. Well, what do we have here? One pirate sneered. His skin was red and scaled, his teeth sharp like knives. A pretty little thing all alone. Where's your master? Leary didn't speak. She tried to back away, but another grabbed her arm. She struggled, her chains rattling. They laughed louder. Sell her back to the markets, one said. She'll bring a good price. Maybe, another whispered, grinning. But I think we can have some fun first. Fear filled her chest. She closed her eyes, ready for the worst. Then a blast of light tore through the hangar. The pirate screamed as smoke filled the air. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, burn marks on his coat, face covered in dust. It was Marcus. He was alive. Leary's eyes widened. She couldn't believe it. The pirates turned their guns on him, but Marcus moved faster than any old man should. He fired back, hitting two of them before they could react. The others ran for cover. Stay behind me, he shouted. Leary obeyed without question this time. Something inside her had changed completely. She wasn't afraid of him anymore. She trusted him. When the fight ended, Marcus limped over to her, bleeding from his shoulder. She looked at him, trembling. You came back, she whispered. He smiled faintly. I told you. I don't leave people behind. For the first time in her life, Leary felt something she had forgotten long ago. Safety. The pirate ship burned behind them as Marcus guided the stolen shuttle through the cold, endless dark. Smoke curled from his shoulder wound, but he ignored it. His hands steady on the controls. Leary sat beside him, silent, watching his face glow faintly under the dim blue light. She still couldn't believe he was alive. She had seen his ship explode, seen the fire swallow him whole. Yet here he was, flying through the stars as if death itself had lost his trail. Are you hurt? She asked softly. Marcus glanced at her, then back to the screen. I've had worse. You were in fire, she said. How you live? He gave a tired half smile. Luck? Or maybe the universe still needs me for something. Leary didn't know what to say. Her people didn't believe in luck. But maybe humans were strange like that, surviving what no one else could. For hours they flew in silence past broken asteroids and dead satellites. The stars outside looked cold and distant, like tiny eyes watching them. Then ahead a faint blue light appeared, a hidden signal beacon. Marcus pressed a few buttons. We're here. Leary leaned forward, trying to see. As the shuttle got closer, a huge shape began to form in the darkness. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't even a space station. It looked like a floating metal city, old, rusted, and covered in faded paint. Words were barely visible on the hull. Haven Outpost 12. The ship docked with a deep metallic thud. The door slid open, releasing a breath of stale air. Leary hesitated, but Marcus nodded for her to follow. Inside, the corridors were dim, filled with flickering lights and echoes. Machines hummed quietly in the distance. The air smelled like oil and dust. It didn't look like a military base, it felt more like a graveyard. "Where are we?" she asked, gripping her thin blanket around her shoulders. "Somewhere the galaxy forgot," Marcus replied. Haven 12 was built after the last war. It used to be a refugee station for survivors. Leary looked around. "Now empty?" "Mostly," he said. "But not for long." They entered a room filled with old equipment and blinking lights. Marcus sat down at a console and typed fast. A holoscreen appeared, showing a map of nearby systems. Leary saw red zones marked as slave trade routes. She shivered. Marcus noticed her expression. "I've been tracking these routes for years. Every shipment, every auction, every buyer. I'm trying to shut them down." Leary's eyes widened. "You defied them?" He nodded slowly. "I used to be part of the Galactic Navy, but when they stopped caring about the slaves, I left. The law didn't protect your kind or mine, so I made my own mission." Leary stepped closer, her voice trembling. "You save others like me?" Marcus turned toward her. "I try to, but it's dangerous. The slavers have money, power, ships. I only have this place, and a few friends who still believe in doing what's right." She stared at him for a long moment. "Why, you human? Why help aliens?" He looked away, his eyes darkening. "Because once, I didn't." The silence that followed was heavy. Leary could feel pain behind his words, something deep and buried. But she didn't ask. She could see he carried ghosts. Finally, Marcus stood. "You should rest. There's a room down the hall. Clean clothes, food, water. No chains. No chains!" Leary repeated softly, almost like it was a dream. She followed his directions, her bare feet silent on the cold floor. When she reached the small room, she stopped at the doorway. It was simple, a bed, a blanket, a light. But to her it looked like paradise. She sat down, feeling the soft surface under her fingers. For years she had slept on stone, in cages, or on metal floors. Her throat tightened. She didn't even realize she was crying until tears fell onto her hands. For the first time in forever, she felt something strange. Freedom. Later that night, she heard footsteps. Marcus stood by the door holding a small tray of food. She wiped her eyes quickly, embarrassed. "Thought you might be hungry," he said quietly. She nodded and took the tray with shaking hands. "Thank you." He started to leave, but she stopped him. "Marcus, you said you save people. You think you can save all?" He looked back at her, his expression unreadable. "I can't save everyone, Leary, but I'll die trying." Then he left, leaving her alone in the quiet room. Leary sat there, staring at the stars outside the window. The universe was vast and cruel, but somewhere inside it, one man still fought for good. And for the first time in her life, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was still hope for her people. The next morning, the lights of Haven 12 flickered like an old heartbeat. Leary woke to the soft hum of machines, her body still weak but her mind sharper than before. For the first time in years, she had slept without fear. No whips, no orders, no chains. She looked around the small room. The bed felt warm, the air smelled clean, and a soft blue glow came from the ceiling. On the table beside her, someone had left a folded gray jacket, Marcus's. Inside the pocket was a small patch with faded letters, GN, Galactic Navy. She touched the fabric, feeling strange. The man who bought her, who fought pirates and saved her life, used to be part of the same human army that destroyed her planet. The thought sent a shiver through her heart. She heard voices from the corridor. Curious, she followed the sound. Marcus was speaking to someone through a hologram. A woman's image flickered in the air. Short hair, sharp eyes, wearing a military uniform. "You shouldn't have brought her there," the woman said. "If Command finds out, you'll lose your license again." Marcus frowned. "I lost that a long time ago, Commander." "You think hiding on that dead station will save you?" She snapped. "The slavers are hunting you. And that alien girl, she's a target now." "I know," he said quietly. "That's why she stays here." The hologram vanished. Marcus turned and froze when he saw Leary standing behind him. For a long second, they just stared at each other. "You shouldn't be up yet," he said softly. "I wanted to help," she replied. "But that woman, she said you lose your license." "Why?" Marcus sighed. "Because I disobeyed orders. I saved people I wasn't supposed to." "Supposed to?" Leary frowned. "You mean slaves?" He nodded. "During the war, the Navy didn't care who got hurt. They called it necessary loss. I called it murder." Her chest tightened. "You fought in that war?" "Yes," Marcus said, his voice quiet, heavy. "I led a squad on Carthus 9. Leary's breath caught. Her world, her home, Carthus 9, yet the walls seemed to close in. She stepped back, shaking her head. No, that's not possible." Marcus's face paled. "Leary, you burned our villages," she screamed, her voice cracking. Your ships came from the sky and destroyed everything. My mother, my brother, they died in the fire." Marcus didn't move. His eyes filled with sorrow, but he didn't defend himself. "I know," he whispered. "I was there." Leary felt her knees weaken. The man who saved her life was the same man who destroyed it. She wanted to hit him, to scream, to run, but her body refused to move. Her chest hurt, her throat burned. "Why?" she demanded, tears streaming down her face. "Why did you kill us?" "I didn't want to," Marcus said. "It was an order. We were told your people were building weapons, dangerous ones. They said we had to strike first. I believed them. I didn't know the truth until it was too late." "Too late?" she shouted. "My people are gone." "You think sorry can fix that?" Marcus bowed his head. "No, nothing can fix that, but I've spent every day since trying to make it right. Every slave I free is a piece of my debt." Leary turned away, covering her face. She wanted to hate him. She should hate him. But when she remembered how he had risked his life for her, how he had looked at her with kindness, the hate didn't come, only pain. "Leave me alone," she whispered. Marcus nodded slowly. "If that's what you want." He walked out, his footsteps echoing down the metal corridor. Hours passed. Leary sat on the floor, trembling. She thought about running away, but where would she go? The galaxy was full of hunters, and she had nowhere left. Yet staying here with him felt impossible. Then, from outside the station, a loud alarm blared. Red lights flashed again. The computer's voice spoke coldly. "Incoming vessels detected. Unidentified ships approaching fast." Leary ran to the control room. Marcus was already there, typing commands with his good hand. His injured arm was wrapped in blood-stained cloth. "Pirates again?" she asked. He shook his head grimly. "No, worse, they're slavers. The ones I've been fighting. They found us." The screen showed 3 massive ships heading straight toward Haven 12. Leary's stomach turned cold. They weren't coming to capture Marcus. They were coming for her. Marcus turned to her, eyes determined. "Listen to me, Leary. No matter what happens, you get to the lower hangar. Take the shuttle and fly to Sector C12. There's a safe zone there." "No," she said, stepping forward. "I'm not running again." "This isn't a choice," he said firmly. "They'll kill you." She looked into his eyes, seeing both guilt and courage mixed together. "Maybe, but I won't leave you, Marcus." "Not again." The alarms grew louder. Outside, the slaver ships opened fire. Haven 12 shook under the blast, and as the stars outside turned red with war once more, Leary realized something. She might hate Marcus for what he did, but she couldn't watch him die trying to save her. Not this time. The station trembled like a dying beast. Red warning lights spun across every wall, and the floor vibrated under Leary's bare feet. The sound of explosions echoed from the outer hull, metal tearing, alarms screaming. Marcus slammed his hand against the console. "They've breached the outer shield." "How many ships?" Leary asked, trying to stay calm even though her voice shook. 3 heavy cruisers, he said, his jaw tight, and 1 carrier. "They're not just here for me. They're here for you." Leary froze. "Me?" "They want their property back," Marcus said bitterly. "And they'll kill anyone who stands in their way." He opened a weapons locker and threw her a small blaster. "Can you shoot?" She looked at the weapon like it was poison. "I've never..." "Then learn," he said. "Because if they reach this room, you'll need it." The station shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling. Leary clutched the blaster, her hands trembling. She didn't want to fight. She didn't want to kill anyone. But when she looked at Marcus, bleeding and exhausted yet still standing, something inside her hardened. She wouldn't let him die for her again. "Where do you want me?" she asked quietly. Marcus glanced at her, surprised, but nodded. Follow me. They ran down the corridor, passing broken wires and flickering lights. The air smelled of burning metal. As they turned a corner, the sound of boots echoed from ahead, slavers in black armor moving fast. Down! Marcus shouted. They ducked behind a steel crate as laser fire filled the hallway. Sparks flew, burning Leary's arm. Marcus fired back, his aim sharp and steady. One slaver fell, then another, but more kept coming. There's too many, Leary whispered. Marcus gritted his teeth. Then we make it count. He tossed her a small device, a grenade. Pull the pin, throw it when I say. Her fingers shook as she held it. The battle noise grew louder. Marcus peeked from cover, then shouted, Now! Leary threw it. The grenade exploded with a flash of blue light, throwing the attackers back. Smoke filled the hall. For a second, silence. Marcus grabbed her hand. Move! They ran through the smoke, down a side passage leading toward the engineering deck. The walls were cracked, steam hissing from broken pipes. Leary coughed, her lungs burning. Where are we going? She asked. To the core, Marcus said. If we can't fight them, we'll make sure they can't take the station. She stopped. You mean destroy it? He turned to face her, eyes dark. Yes, her heart dropped. You'll die, he smiled faintly. Not if you leave first. I'm not leaving you, she said fiercely. Not again. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Something in his face softened, pride, maybe even love. But there was no time to speak. The sound of footsteps came from behind. The slavers were closing in. He handed her a small data chip. Take this. It has the coordinates of every slave camp I've found. If I don't make it out, find someone who can use it. Promise me. Leary shook her head. You'll tell them yourself. Before he could argue, a blast door ahead exploded inward. The slavers rushed in, guns blazing. Marcus pushed Leary behind a console and opened fire. The air filled with energy bolts, sparks, and the sound of shouting. Leary clutched the blaster. Her fear was gone now, only anger remained. She leaned from behind the console and fired. One shot missed. The second hit. The slaver fell. Her hand steadied. Marcus looked at her, surprised. Good shot. Lucky, she said, breathless. He smiled. Keep being lucky. They fought side by side, moving as one. She covered his flank. He protected her with his body. Every blast, every scream, every flash of light felt endless. But then a bullet caught Marcus in the side. He stumbled, blood darkening his coat. Marcus! She cried. He waved her off, still firing with his other hand. Keep fighting! Rage burned inside her. She fired again and again until the last slaver fell. The corridor went silent, filled only with the sound of their heavy breathing. Marcus sank to one knee, clutching his wound. Leary ran to him. You're bleeding. Not the first time, he muttered, trying to smile. But his face was pale. We need to leave, she said. He pointed weakly toward the glowing reactor chamber ahead. Not yet. I have to overload the core. Then I'll do it, she said. Tell me how. Marcus looked at her, pain in his eyes. If you do it, you won't have time to escape, she gritted her teeth. Then we do it together. For a long moment, they just stared at each other, two souls bound by guilt, fire, and fate. Then Marcus nodded. Together. They limped toward the control panel, alarms screaming louder than ever. The outpost was falling apart. The slaver ships outside were still firing. Through a shattered window, Leary saw pieces of the station breaking away into the void. Marcus placed his bloody hand on the console. 3 minutes till overload, he said quietly. After that, everything ends. Leary looked out at the stars. Once she had dreamed of escaping into them. Now she wasn't afraid of dying among them so long as she wasn't dying alone. The sound of the reactor alarms filled every corridor, long, low, and endless. Red lights flashed like heartbeats. 3 minutes left. Marcus leaned over the console, his fingers moving fast across the controls despite the blood dripping from his side. Leary stood beside him, her hands trembling, trying to help but not understanding the glowing human symbols on the screen. Just tell me what to do, she pleaded. He pointed weakly at a lever. When I say now, pull that. It'll start the final overload. What about you? She asked. Marcus gave a small, tired smile. I'll make sure it actually works. She frowned, realizing what he meant. You mean? You'll stay, he didn't answer. That silence was louder than any alarm. Her throat tightened. No, Marcus. You promised we'd escape together. He looked at her, his eyes filled with something heavy, sorrow, guilt, and peace. I promised to save you, Leary, that's all I ever meant. Her heart twisted. Why do humans always think dying is saving? Before he could reply, an explosion rocked the room. The doors burst open and slavers poured in. Black armor, glowing weapons, shouting orders. They had broken through the defenses. Marcus grabbed his gun and fired, hitting two before taking cover. Get to the shuttle! He yelled. Leary shook her head, tears forming. No, go! He shouted, firing again. That's an order! She wanted to obey, but something stronger kept her rooted. She couldn't run this time. Not after everything. Not after learning the truth about him. Not after he'd saved her life again and again. A slaver aimed at Marcus's back. Leary screamed and shot first. The bolt hit the slaver's chest, sending him flying. She breathed hard, shocked at her own aim. Marcus turned, eyes wide. You're supposed to be gone, he said. I'm not leaving you, she said, her voice steady now. Not while you still breathe. He stared at her for a second, then gave a faint, proud smile. You sound like a soldier. I'm not, she whispered. I'm just tired of running. The slavers kept coming. Laser fire filled the air. They fought side by side again. Back to back, Marcus's shots sharp and controlled, Leary's wild but brave. Every second felt like a lifetime. The reactor alarms changed tone. Overload sequence initiated. 2 minutes remaining, Marcus cursed. They'll try to shut it down. How long until it explodes? She asked. Not long enough, he said grimly. Then above the chaos, a voice boomed from the slaver's comms. Marcus Hale! Stand down. You're surrounded. The girl belongs to us. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Captain Vorn. Leary recognized the name. She had heard it whispered in the slave markets. The one who sold children for sport, who broke families for profit. The monster behind it all. The door to the main chamber opened, and Vorn stepped through. He was huge, armored in dark silver, his face hidden behind a black visor. So this is the famous traitor, he said in a deep, cruel voice. And the little alien he threw his career away for. Leary glared at him. You destroyed my world, Vorn laughed. Your world destroyed itself. Humans just finished the job. Marcus raised his weapon. You're not taking her. You can't protect her, Vorn said. You never could. You humans always playing hero. Always failing, Marcus didn't reply. He fired. The blast hit Vorn's shoulder, knocking him back, but he was too strong. He raised his heavy rifle and fired in return. The shot hit Marcus's chest. Leary screamed as he fell. She ran to him, kneeling beside him. Blood soaked through his jacket. His breathing was shallow. Marcus, please, get up. He smiled weakly. Leary, pull the lever. She looked toward the console, glowing red. But now, he said firmly. Tears ran down her cheeks. She stood, ran to the lever, and pulled it. The reactor roared like thunder. The whole outpost began to shake. Vorn shouted into his comm, Abort! Everyone out! Marcus reached for his gun even as his strength faded. Leary, go. The shuttle. She shook her head. No, not without you. He touched her hand, his blood warm on her fingers. You already saved me, the floor cracked. Fire burst from the walls. Leary's tears fell like rain. Please, don't leave me again. Marcus looked up at her, his voice barely a whisper. You gave me something worth dying for. And then, his hand went still, the alarm screamed. The station shook violently. Vorn ran toward the exit, but Leary turned, fire burning in her eyes. She picked up Marcus's gun, aimed and fired. The shot hit Vorn's power pack and his armor exploded in a burst of flame. She didn't look back. Leary ran to the escape pod bay as the floor broke apart behind her. The heat burned her skin. The air turned to fire. She jumped into the pod and slammed the door. Through the window, she saw Haven 12 break apart, shining like a dying star. The explosion lit the dark sky for a moment, bright, beautiful, and final. And Marcus Hale was gone. Leary pressed her forehead to the glass, crying quietly. He saved me. And I couldn't save him. The pod drifted into the cold, endless dark, but inside her hand, she still clutched the small data chip Marcus had given her, proof that his mission wasn't over. The stars drifted silently outside the escape pod. Leary sat in the dark, knees pulled to her chest, staring through the small glass window at the blackness beyond. Her reflection stared back at her, pale, tired, and broken. The explosion of Haven 12 had faded into memory, but its light still burned in her mind. Marcus was gone. The man she thought was her enemy had died to save her. The galaxy felt too quiet without his rough voice and calm eyes. She reached into her pocket and took out the small data chip Marcus had given her. It glowed faintly blue. She turned it over in her palm, remembering his last words. "If I don't make it out, find someone who can use it." The pod's computer beeped. Beacon detected. Life support critical. Course correction required. Leary wiped her tears. Computer, locate nearest habitable world. Processing. A moment later, a map appeared on the screen. A small green moon called Alaris 3 within range. She gripped the controls, her hand still trembling but her voice steady. "Set course, go!" The pod's thrusters ignited. For the first time in years, she was not running from something. She was flying toward something. Hours later, the pod entered the thin atmosphere of Alaris 3. The landing was rough, smoke, dust, and shaking, but she survived. The door opened and fresh air hit her face. The sky was soft orange, the ground covered in tall, glowing plants that shimmered in the wind. She stepped out barefoot, breathing deeply. For a moment she just stood there, letting the air fill her lungs. Freedom had a taste, sharp and sweet like rain after fire, but she wasn't here to hide. Marcus's chip was still in her hand, glowing faintly. She searched for shelter and found an old communication tower near a rocky ridge. It was rusted, half broken, but the solar panels still worked. Leary spent hours fixing the wires, remembering the way Marcus had done things. Patient, calm, never giving up. By nightfall, the tower hummed to life. The lights blinked on and a faint signal flickered across the screen. She uploaded the data chip, watching as dozens of names, coordinates, and locations filled the monitor. Slave camps, markets, hidden routes, everything Marcus had risked his life to collect. Her heart pounded. She realized she was holding the key to freeing thousands. "Marcus," she whispered, "your fight isn't over." For days she worked without rest. She fixed the transmitter, encoded the files, and sent out secret messages to old rebel channels. Every night she would look up at the stars and imagine Marcus sitting beside her, giving quiet advice in that rough, calm voice. One night, a faint signal came through. A voice, broken with static. "This is Captain Ryan of the Free Colonies." "Who is this?" Leary leaned forward. "My name is Leary. I have information from Marcus Hale." There was a long silence. Then the voice replied softly, "Marcus Hale is dead." She closed her eyes. "I know, but his mission lives. I have everything he found and I want to help finish it." The voice was quiet for a long moment, then said, "Transmit the data. We'll find you." When the signal ended, Leary finally smiled, not because she was happy, but because she finally had a purpose. Days turned into weeks. Ships began to arrive on Alaris 3. Old freighters, small fighter crafts, even alien carriers. People from every race came answering her call. Survivors, soldiers, rebels, all ready to fight. They built tents and camps around the communication tower. They called it Haven 13, in memory of the one Marcus had died defending. And at the center of it all was Leary, no longer a slave, no longer running. Some called her the girl who survived. Others called her the last hope of the broken worlds. But when they asked what she wanted to be called, she said simply, "Marcus's promise." Months later, as the sun set across Alaris 3, Leary stood on a small hill overlooking the camp. Children ran between the tents laughing. Soldiers repaired ships. The air buzzed with the hum of life. She looked up at the stars. The same stars Marcus once stared at from the bridge of his broken ship. She whispered softly, "You saved me, but you also taught me how to save others." The wind carried her words into the sky, into the endless night where his memory lived. A small star flickered above, brighter than the rest, and for a moment, she imagined it was Marcus watching over her. She smiled through tears. "Rest now, old man," she said. "I'll finish what you started." The camera, for your YouTube storytelling, could slowly pull back, showing the shining camp below, the communication tower glowing like a beacon, and the stars above forming a soft halo. The voiceover fades with her final line. "He was just one human, but one human changed everything."